Day one of the 2026 NBA draft went really well for the Chicago Bulls in the sense of getting Caleb Wilson and Dailyn Swain. But since Dailyn Swain's name was not on the minds of a lot of Chicago Bulls fans because Cameron Carr was still on the board, on today's episode, I want to talk about the expectations, the realistic expectations for Caleb Wilson and Dailyn Swain in their rookie years. We're also going to look at the best players on the board on day two in round two for the Chicago Bulls. We're going to look at all that plus more right after this. What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host there, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, hey, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button, man. We're in the middle of draft season. Free agent season is right around the corner, and Chicago Bulls Central is your number one and go-to spot for everything up to the minute for the Chicago Bulls. There's nobody covering the Chicago Bulls like we cover them here. And about 42% of you guys that watch the channel every single day are not subscribed. You're here anyway, hit that subscribe button. I know I post every day and have done so for 1,845 straight days, but make sure you guys are subscribed even if I am in your algorithm. With that said, let's talk about this. So the Chicago Bulls picks at number 4 in Caleb Wilson went exactly the way that most Bulls fans expected it to go. The draft board went the way that the draft board was supposed to go. It was chalk. At number 15, a darling that has popped up over the draft combine period in Cameron Carr was there, and the Bulls decided to go Dailyn Swain instead of Cameron Carr. Now, Cameron Carr did go on to drop pretty significantly in the draft, and that's going to raise some questions, of course, for people that are going to ask what's going on, what was wrong with Cameron Carr to the point that he did not get drafted as high as some people. He went all the way to number 24 in that draft, and so we'll talk a little bit about that, right? And I do think that yes, the Bulls have some needs of shooting, but like I said, not everything is going to be all solved in one offseason for the Chicago Bulls. But with all that said, let's talk about what these guys are bringing to the team. Now you have Caleb Wilson and Dailyn Swain joining a young core in Chicago that includes Josh Giddey, Milos Brazile, Noah Essengay, Leonard Miller, Jalen Smith. You have these guys here now. We just added Nic Claxton as well. I won't call him part of the young core, but they are joining this team, right? And I do think that while Caleb Wilson and Dailyn Swain aren't going to necessarily save the Chicago Bulls offense right away, they are being drafted because they bring exactly the profile that Bryson Graham likes. They bring size, they bring length, they bring athleticism, they bring physicality. And I also think when you look at Tiago Splitter and how he likes to coach and develop, these guys fit in with similar players that he had over in Portland and that he's developed over his career as well. So I think that the year one impact for these guys is going to be, again, realistic year one impact, but both these guys have capability of turning into decent jump shooters, and we'll talk about why. First up, Caleb Wilson. We all know he's a young, athletic forward, defensive savant, right? He does create for himself in the mid-range, and while the people who just say blankly he can't shoot, no, he can't. He's not a consistent three-point shooter. He actually creates pretty well in the mid-range, both as the roll man on the pick and roll, the short roll, the pick and pop. He has the ability to also create separation in the mid-range and actually get a jump shot. He has some floaters as well. I like to see him round that out. The two things that Caleb Wilson is going to have to do long-term is work on a back-to-the-basket game, especially if he's going to be a power forward long-term, and be able to shoot threes enough to keep the defense respectable. Even though I think if Caleb Wilson is at the three-point line, you're not going to completely sag off on him because of his ability to get to the rim, jump, and draw fouls. But his role in year one is going to be the rookie who's going to be an athletic front-court connector and not the full offensive centerpiece yet, right? Which is pretty good. We still want to work on Milos Brazile's offense. Now, not to say that Caleb Wilson is still not going to have tons of opportunity offensively, but the Bulls aren't going to just turn everything over to him offensively in year one. He's going to bring rim pressure and transition, cutting and short roll finishing, offensive rebounding, defensive rebounding, weak side rim protection as well, and that modern switchable player that almost every really good team needs is somebody who can guard players 1 through 4. And I think that as Caleb Wilson gets stronger, he may be able to guard some 5s, much like Alex Caruso and Lonzo Ball were able to do at points in their career. I do think that the flashes that he's shown as a passer in the front court as well really stand out. When you look at his statistically in his profile there, of course, 19.8 points per game, which was 38th in NCAA, 9.4 rebounds, 2.7 assists, 1.5 steals, 1.5 blocks, and a 62% true shooting percentage. It's obvious. This guy has all the tools in the making to be really good. The 7-foot plus wingspan, 6'10.5" in height, the 35.5-inch max vertical. There's no doubt. The eye test he passed, he's a strong, athletic player. I think a realistic rookie expectations for Caleb Wilson is going to play about 24 to 28 minutes per game. He's going to average about 10 to 14 points per game in his rookie year, 6 to 8 rebounds, 1.5 to 2.5 assists. And I think, again, blocks and steals combined, I think you're looking at about 2.5 stocks per game. That gives him a lot to build off with, right? And of course, having Nic Claxton helps a lot with that. Instead of forcing Caleb Wilson to guard some of the bigger players or to be the only switchable player on the team, you have Nic Claxton that can also do some of those things. And so Tiago Splitter could very much so use Caleb Wilson as that roaming four next to Nic Claxton, and where he can run, defend, cut, all those type of things, and that's good. Now, how is Tiago going to develop Caleb Wilson? I think that the things that Caleb Wilson is going to have to work on in his first year: defend without fouling, running the floor, crashing the glass, cutting behind the defenses, right? Like getting those wall behind the defenses and making quick short roll reads, which means that both if it's time to score, if it's time to pass, those type of things. And then take those open corner threes, right? Not forcing threes, but take those open corner threes. One thing that Tiago Splitter talked about in his press conference when asked about the Portland Trailblazers and why they took so many threes is that, he defaulted to, well, hell, they were good shots. They were open. And that's much going to be the profile here. Take those open threes. Don't pass them up, especially the corner threes. That's how we're going to work on your confidence in shooting right away. And then we're going to keep doing that. I think the biggest development path for Caleb Wilson going forward is going to be that reliable decision maker. I do think that, the big man coach that Tiago Splitter has been, he's going to be there. But there are some concerns, right? And we're going to talk about concerns with both these guys. When you look at it, the swing skill for Caleb Wilson is the shooting, right? Caleb Wilson's three-point shooting is not proven NBA weapon at all, and it may not be for his first 2 or 3 years in the league. Now, you want him to progress over that time, but it's probably not going to be a flat-out weapon for him there, right? So the spacing on the court with Giddey and Claxton and stuff like that could get a little tight at times, and it's going to be more important for how we operate in pick and roll at that point in time. But I think the concerns are half-court scoring polish. He's going to have to work on that. The defensive discipline and not foul as much is going to have to be there. And then the strength against the bigger forwards in the league. But I think those things he's going to be able to work on. Can those weaknesses become strength? The defense and the rebounding, yes. Those are going to be really big strengths for him right away. I'm not really worried about that. The shooting is a possible good strength. It could become a good strength for him, but it's not guaranteed. If he can become a 34-ish% catch and shoot guy, I think that's going to be a lot for him, right? And again, years 3 to 5 is really when you want him to become that 34 to 36%-ish catch and shoot player. And it would change his ceiling drastically if he's able to do that. But again, I'm not going to project him as a high-volume three-point shooter, and that's perfectly fine. Let's get to Dailyn Swain, right? Dailyn Swain, his rookie role is probably going to be – I don't know if he's going to start right away. I do think drafting him, it may make it more likely we try to bring back Collin Sexton as the scoring guard there. We'll see. We know – well, Billy Donovan's not here. Billy Donovan would have started Josh Giddey and Trey Jones together. I don't know if Tiago's going to want to do that, right? He could move Isaac Okoro to the 2 and then have Modest at the 3, Caleb Wilson at the 4 as a possibility. But I do think that Dailyn Swain's rookie role is going to be big defender, transition attacker, and secondary connector when the other players are off. He's going to bring wing size, slashing, rebounding. He has a really good feel passing-wise as well. And his defensive playmaking is going to up the floor for the Chicago Bulls on the defensive side of the ball right away. He's able to put pressure in transition, and he's going to have positional versatility as well. He can play the 2, he can play the 3, he can play some small ball 4 for you as well. We'll see how much we do that with the forward depth we have. We shouldn't have to play a lot of small ball forward, but for specific matchups, he can do some stuff like that as well. When you look at him, 17.3 points per game, 7.5 rebounds, 3.6 assists, 1.6 steals, and he did that while shooting 54% from the field and 34.8% from 3, which, again, isn't great, but it is enough to keep defenses honest if he's able to simulate that at the NBA level. And he also shoots 81% from the free throw line. That free throw number is important because it does give you faith that his jumper has more ability. It's really slow, right? His jumper's really slow. He's going to have to get that sped up in the NBA level, but we'll talk about that. I think when you look at the things with him is that it's not empty scoring for Dailyn Swain, and that's the most important part. When you look at players that score in the way that Swain scores, that they're this physical, they out-grind people at the collegiate level, typically that's not always replicable at the NBA level. I think that Dailyn Swain is going to be able to do a lot of that because of his motor. I think a realistic expectation in year one for Dailyn Swain is 18 to 24 minutes per game, about 7 to 10 points per game, maybe the high end of that 12-ish, right? 4.5 rebounds, 4 to 5 rebounds per game. And then you're looking at about 1.5 to 2.5 steals and about 1 to 1.5 steals, and then about 1.5 to 2.5 assists per game, right? I think that he's going to immediately compete for Isaac Okoro. He's going to immediately probably be ahead of the rotation of Patrick Williams. We'll see about Noah Essengay and Leonard Miller. He's going to push those guys for some of those forward minutes. But because Swain can also play the two, there you go on that one. The easiest path forward for him is defend, running in transition, making really good fast decisions on the offensive side of the ball. And I think that the way that Tiago Splitter is going to develop Swain is you're going to have him guarding twos, you're going to have him guarding threes, and some fours as well. And that's going to help push this team forward defensively. Push the break after rebounds, right? Cut when Josh Giddey or Modest handle the ball, and Trey Jones for that matter. And I also think attack tilted defenses. So when you are in transition and those defenses don't have a chance to fully set up, attack it. Just go ahead and attack it. One pass reads. That's what Dailyn Swain is going to have to do at the NBA level in year one. The biggest concerns about him becomes his handle versus NBA players, the left-hand counters, the turnovers if he's asked to do too much in the half court, and then, of course, the half court scoring limitations. How much of that is going to be able to become strengths for him? Of course, the defense I'm not worried about. The passing and the connective player, I think that's already part of his profile, and it's going to be a strength that he's going to have right away. And then as far as shooting, I do think that the shooting can come around for him. The 81% from the line makes it favorable that he can. I do think that he can become about a 33 to 35-ish% catch and shoot player over time, right? Becoming an elite shooter, it's probably less likely when it comes down to that, right? But I think overall, the draft class of Caleb Wilson and Dailyn Swain, it ups the Bulls' ceiling, it ups the floor as well. Dailyn Swain is a really good two-way fit for this team, and together, it gives the Bulls exactly a big, long, athletic, switchable, developmental profile defensively that they can use, and that's really kind of what we see for the Bulls. The best case for this is that Caleb Wilson becomes an elite starting power forward, and Dailyn Swain becomes a plus defender that may not be a starter, but is a player that can play a lot for you coming off the bench and a lot of minutes. I think that Tiago Splitter is going to give both these guys role clarity very early on into their careers, and then we'll see how he continues to add to that over time. But I love these guys. I love the pick for the Chicago Bulls, and I think they did damn good. But then let's get into the next topic. Who are some players that the Bulls could really look at here in round two, right? I think the biggest needs for the Bulls still on the board, and even though they're not going to solve every need, I want to continue to be clear on this. Every need for the Bulls in this offseason is not going to be solved, or for this team overall, is not going to be solved just in this offseason. But I think when you look at it, the needs are clear. Shooting, right? I think that we need another guard/creator, specifically one that can play the two. I think that we need some more wing depth, so the 2-3 wing depth. And I do think that when you look at players that either fit Tiago Splitter's development profile or Bryson Graham's desired physical profile, there are a number of players that fit. I think that at number 38, Ryan Conwell continues to be somebody that stands out. He stands out for the Bulls because he fixed one of the biggest issues after drafting Caleb Wilson and Dailyn Swain. That's shooting gravity. The Bulls have no shooting gravity right now. Conwell is a player that averaged 18.8 points per game. He made 3.8 threes per game per 36 minutes and 56% true shooting percentage. That's really good. That's really good. I think also these numbers project him to be a 40% NBA three-point shooter. You need some of that. Now, he doesn't have the most traditional height size. He does have a really solid wingspan, and I think that he fits with Josh Giddey. Again, I'm not sure if Ryan Conwell becomes a starter, but I do think he helps spacing. He brings some shooting gravity to this team, and he can fit with just about anybody that we have on this team. The three players that I have on the board for the Chicago Bulls at pick number 38 that makes sense is Ryan Conwell, Isaiah Evans, the guard out of Duke as well. I think that Isaiah Evans could fit a lot for the Chicago Bulls. This is a guy that plays guard, wing. I think that he has a lot of upside as a shooter in this draft. I think he makes a lot of sense for the Chicago Bulls. Now, I know some people are going to say, well, Haize, why don't you have Vassar on your list here? And I think Vassar is going to go way before the Bulls pick, in my personal opinion. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. If he's somebody that's there. But Isaiah Evans does stand out as a 6'6", 186-pound guard. He averaged 15 points per game last season, 43% shooting from the field. He was a career 38% three-point shooter, in college, and he just fits very well for what the Chicago Bulls could need next season. And I think that he fits into that profile very well, and that he can make some sense for the Bulls there. And then Trevon Brazile, the forward/center. If the Bulls do want to get somebody that could develop into a starting caliber center for them, even after trading for Nic Claxton, Trevon Brazile fits that Bryson Graham shooting profile very well. 6'10", 7'3" wingspan, a 41-inch vertical, plus the stocks that he brings, the steals and the block production that he brings along with rebounding. I really like that. So the way that I have these guys is the safe pick, Ryan Conwell. The upside swing is Isaiah Evans. And the slap swing is Trevon Brazile here. Those guys all make really good sense for the Chicago Bulls. They're at pick number 56. And we'll just see what the Bulls do with these guys. But I like all of these guys to varying degrees. I think they all bring something that the Bulls lack, right now. And again, not saying that you're going to be able to solve everything in this draft, but I do like what he does bring for this team. And I think especially Isaiah Evans. Isaiah Evans is one of the guys that I think the versatile shooting and scoring package that he brings, that he's a legit 3-level scorer. He has unlimited range when it comes down to the three-point shot. You talk about that and the gravity that means for the Chicago Bulls. And I'll also say this, while not a lockdown on-ball defender, what Evans does bring is he has length, instincts, and active hands that can create turnovers. And for a team like the Bulls who are going to be dominant in transition, it brings a lot of that. He's going to have to add physical strength. The shot selection can be a little bit questionable at first, and he's not a very consistent defensive player. But I think that he has the scoring profile right away. But I think he has the defensive upside that you can still see him turning into a solid defender at the next level. Again, I don't know if he's ever going to be a lockdown defender, but you can definitely see him turning into a serviceable defender. And Trevon Brazile he's instantly one of my favorite players in the second round. Absolutely. I think that the production that he can bring can help the Bulls a lot, right? So after drafting Wilson, Swain, trading for Nic Claxton, we've already invested heavily in athleticism and defense. Now we need to invest in shooting. We need to invest in some of that, or big depth, right? That's the kind of thing that we need to do there. I know Noah Essengay is 7 feet tall, but I don't think he's going to be ready to guard centers right away. So I think that if you can add a guy like Trevon Brazile in this at pick number 38, I think that the Bulls are in a pretty good position. But then at pick number 56 for the Chicago Bulls, you have Keyshawn Hall, right? Now, this is one of my favorite targets in the late second round, if he's still there, because 6'6", 227 pounds, he averaged 19.3 points, 7.1 rebounds. He finished 5th in the SEC in scoring and ranked 2nd nationally in made free throws. Why is that made free throw number important? Because for people that are scorers, when their shot isn't falling, can you get to that free throw line? And then can you hit it? And that's the thing that he can do. This guy will bring bench scoring immediately. He can punish smaller wings because he does have that size advantage on a lot of wings. He rebounds better than normal guard and wing production as well. And I think that he would give the Chicago Bulls a polished offensive piece. Now, I don't think that Keyshawn Hall is going to be a starter or anything like that, or he may even have to start off in the G League. But I do think that he brings a lot. The concern is defensive playmaking, and that's there. Other players that I have on this for the Bulls are out of Houston, Emanuel Sharp, the guard there, shooting specialist, competitive, right? He brings to it. And this is a guy that doesn't make a lot of mistakes as a role player. And I think when you look at role players in the league, if you develop a role player, especially this late in the second round, if they play mistake-free basketball, those are guys that you want to invest in, and he does that, right? Now, and so you look at that. And then the other guy, and this is the long shot, is another guard out of Houston, and Milos Uzan. I think this is a guy that is a bigger guard option, right? I do think he's a connector more than a scorer, but he also fits the draft profile of Tiago Splitter as well. If you want security, ball security, and defense, he brings that in droves, right? So my pick, Keyshawn Hall here. I think the best shooting pick is Emanuel Sharp, and the stability pick is Milos Uzan there. I think that all makes sense. If the Bulls leave this draft with Caleb Wilson, Dailyn Swain, Ryan Conwell, or Trevon Brazile, or even Isaiah Evans there, it makes a lot of sense there. And then if you can walk away with Keyshawn Hall as well, that is a very strong draft class. Not all those guys are going to end up turning into big impact players, but it's a strong draft class that's worth the investment of the development in, and then seeing where that can take you as a team. And that's what you want to walk away from a draft with. I think the Bulls have put themselves in a really good position. How the draft board has fallen has been unexpected to a lot. Now, could the Bulls go Henry Vassar here as well? They absolutely could. This is a guy that some people projected was going to go right outside the lottery, and he's now available in the second round. But I think he's going to be one of those first picks in the second round, potentially. And I just don't know if he's going to be somebody that is going to still be there on the board for the Bulls. But if he is there, I wouldn't mind the Bulls taking a look at him either. So that's my board for the Chicago Bulls. That's what I want to see, what the Bulls can do on day 2. And let's see. The things are looking really solid for the Bulls right now. Let's see how much better they can do. The question now becomes about this for Bulls fans. Chicago just landed 2 long-term building blocks, and I think we're still waiting to see how everything comes together. Yes, the team is still lacking some things. They're not going to solve everything in one offseason, but we are on a good path, and I think that's what you have to take. How balanced this draft class is really comes down to what we now do in the second round. And Tiago Splitter is going to have a really good opportunity to go out there and show and prove that he can get the right guys here for the Chicago Bulls. And let's give him that time. Let's give him that opportunity, and let's see what he can do with it. But make sure you guys stay locked in with us here. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode or an upload. You can follow us at Bull Central Pod on every social media platform. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, bullcentralpod@gmail.com. And lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the #1 spot for everything Chicago Bulls related, but that is thanks to you, lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See you right if you can, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation